Missy Elliot is a 4-time Grammys award winner, nominated 22 times. She has set the mark in the music industry as a performer and songwriter. She is behind hits such as Work It, Get Your Freak On and Lose Control, as well as many iconic hits in hip-hop, R&B and pop. Missy is a visual storyteller and a creative like no other, known for bold fashion, quirky dance moves and mesmerizing music videos. She is a successful businesswoman who has avoided the pitfalls of the music industry, having full creative control of her music, longevity and undeniable talent, building the empire she has today. Missy was born in Portsmouth, Virginia in 1971. Her full name is Melissa Arnett Elliott. Her father was a Marine and her mother worked as a dispatcher in a power company. From the age of 4, Missy knew that she wanted to be an entertainer. Her reply was always superstar when asked what she wanted to be when she grew up. "I never saw anything else, never dreamed of doing anything else," she said. Missy was very popular at school and extremely bright. She was funny and loved to entertain everybody. She was even voted class clown. But what people didn't know was that Missy used humour to hide the pain she was dealing with. Her home life was plagued with violence and abuse. Missy grew up in extreme poverty. On VH1 Behind the Music, she recalled waking up to her dad hitting her with a newspaper. There were mice crawling all over her as she slept. Her mother said, "We didn't have running water. We were going in a pot that sat by her bed because we didn't have a bathroom." Missy witnessed her father become violent towards her mother. She said he would beat her mother daily. "My father was very abusive, and it was hard for my mother at first to leave because we had depended on him for so long. Sometimes you kind of get adjusted to getting that beating." She also recalled a time he pulled a gun out on her mother. She ran to her uncle's house to get help. At this point, her mother was so tired of being abused, she was ready to give up. Thankfully, she wasn't harmed. Missy was even afraid to leave her mother alone, fearing what she might find when she returned. She also revealed the devastating news that she was abused at 8 years old by a male relative.
Me at 8 years old, I had no clue of what that was, but I knew something was wrong. It don't disappear, you remember it like it was yesterday.
When she reached her teens, the violence against her mother was worse than ever. When she came home from school, she would go straight to her room, shut the door, and cry all night. Missy was a huge fan of Michael and Janet Jackson growing up. She used to write to their fan clubs, hoping to hear back from them. She never did. Little did she know that one day she would be writing songs for Janet and even become close friends with her. She would also go on to receive the Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award. When Missy was 14, relatives begged her mother to leave, and she finally agreed to do so. They waited until her father left for the day, and a truck was sent round to the house. Her uncles, aunties and cousins loaded it up with as many possessions as possible. They left him with a blanket, a plate and a fork. Missy said it was a scary time. "When we left, my mother realised how strong she was on her own, and it made me strong. It took her leaving to realise," she said. Thankfully, he didn't track them down, and they were able to get on with their lives. Growing up a Baptist, Missy said that her faith is what helped see her through. While she was still at school, she formed a girl group. She was also introduced to Timbaland and Magoo, who lived in a neighbouring town. They worked well together and became lifelong friends and colleagues. Missy's group, Phase, auditioned for Devontae Swing when Jodeci were in town. He signed them to his label, Swing Mob Records, and Missy wrote the group's album. She stayed at the label for 3 years, but she ended up leaving because it became a very hostile working environment. Devontae was difficult to work with and allegedly had a temper.
Devontae was very controlling, wanted to know everyone's move, who you were talking to, why you were talking to them, what was the conversation about.
Missy said the final straw was when an argument ensued in the recording studio. Chairs were thrown narrowly missing the girls, having escaped violence growing up. She vowed to never put herself in that situation again. She left and never looked back. Missy moved to New York City and began working as a songwriter. She was happy to stay behind the scenes at that time and had no interest in being an artist again. Another big break came when she was commissioned to write for Aaliyah Horton. Both Missy and Timbaland produced Aaliyah's second studio album after she broke away from her former producer, who shall remain nameless. Aaliyah was excited to have a new team and create a fresh new sound. It turned out to be the perfect collaboration. One in a Million is their most famous Aaliyah track. At this time, it was easy to forget that Missy was a rapper and singer in her own right. But Diddy hadn't forgotten and asked her to write a verse for one of his tracks, a song by Gina Thompson. Missy wrote her verse and featured on the track. Her famous line was born. And the rest is history. Missy was offered a publishing deal with Elektra Records, but one of the conditions was for her to make her own album. Speaking of Missy's talent, Sylvia Rhone said, "You just see it, you hear it, and you know that it says superstar. It wasn't like we had to nurture or push. She could sing, she could rhyme, she could write. And she had a sense of what she wanted image-wise, even back then." Speaking of her writing process, Missy said, "I put the situation in mind. So I write about what I see in everyday life and what I have experienced or think that any human being could go through." Missy's music is fun and energetic, despite her traumatic childhood and all the things that she has been through. Sometimes, people who have suffered trauma strive to spread joy to others. Her first album was Super Duper Fly. People couldn't understand why it took so long for Missy to release her own material. In the 90s, artists such as Little Kim and Foxy Brown were dominating the female rap game. Being overweight and not fitting into the conventional standard of beauty could have held Missy back. But Missy didn't allow this to stop her and decided to change the game instead. She proved the doubters wrong and allowed her talent to speak for itself. Devontae Swing is credited for discovering Missy and giving her a shot in the industry. But his brother, Mr. Dalvin, claims to have also had a hand in discovering her, saying, "I discovered Missy too, you know. I brought Missy to Devontae. There are few people who know that. She wasn't the most flattering looking person, but I saw through all of that. I knew she had something special. I felt that about her. It wasn't a typical Beyoncé look, but I saw way beyond the physical appearance, and I knew what she could be," he said. Missy has been promoting body positivity before it became popular. Even for the video Super Duper Fly, she wears a black bin liner, proving that she can look fly in anything, whatever her size. The title of the song itself is letting the world know that she is happy in her own skin.
I remember you weren't your average, everyday, criteria of what a star should look like and sound like. You remember those days? What were those days like when you had to prove yourself?
I mean, you got to think that at that time, everybody was in the little bathing suits and stuff, and you had the big girl come in this trash bag. You had everybody had the good Indian weaves in here. I come with the finger waves with the black gel. So I was just totally the opposite. But I think it gave us some kind of balance and it created my own lane where I didn't feel like I was clashing and with nobody else. It was just like, she crazy, but something about her I like, but she crazy. She got them finger waves. We ain't seen them finger waves, and I don't know where she done brought them jokers back.
Missy is celebrated for her talent, her music, and her ability to tell a story in her own unique way. "Love my guts, so F a tummy tuck," she said in her 2003 song, Pump It Up. Whether she is thin or bigger, people love her music, her voice, and her music videos. She always seems to have a smile on her face and has never been involved in any crazy controversy. Other artists have also praised her for being professional and a pleasure to work with. Super Duper Fly went platinum, and she was named Rap Star of the Year by Rolling Stone. They said, "The production marries hip-hop beats and succulent R&B with a cool, uncluttered glaze that flatters the rhymes instead of flattening them." AllMusic Guide proclaimed that Super Duper Fly was arguably the most influential album ever released by a female hip-hop artist. She received the Grammy nomination for the album. Missy also worked with Whitney Houston, writing 4 songs for her My Love Is Your Love album. She also appeared on Mel B's song I Want You Back, which went to number 1 in the UK. Missy was in demand to either write or feature on tracks of other artists. Her second album, released in 1999, was also a success, with singles She's a Bitch and Hot Boys. This album was a little edgier, addressing the double standards involving men and women, for instance. It sold 3 million worldwide, which was a relief to Missy. I can't even explain the pressure. The last album took me a week to record. This one took almost 2 months. I couldn't rush it the second time because people expect more, she said. Missy also launched a lipstick called Misdemeanor, with the proceeds going to Break the Cycle, an organisation for the survivors of domestic abuse. Speaking of growing up in such a volatile environment, Missy said, "You know what it does? It makes me not want to take a man's ish." She then said she has a lot of female friends who take mistreatment from their boyfriends. They're cursed at, they can't go nowhere, they have to move when the guy says move. With half my friends, the guy ain't even paying the bills. And I'm like, wow, there's no way in the world I can do that. Because I watched my mother have to escape from that. It can't be them telling me what to do. That's not gonna work. If I find somebody, we're gonna have to meet each other halfway. Speaking of J-Lo and Halle Berry at the time, Missy said, laughing, "They're women who have everything. And then if somebody comes along and tries to tell them what to do, they'll probably be like, 'Are you crazy? I'm J-Lo.'" In 2002, Missy had to deal with the loss of close friend Aaliyah. She spoke about the shock of finding out about the plane crash in which Aaliyah and 8 other people lost their lives. She didn't believe it at first. She decided to call her. When she didn't respond, she knew her friend was gone. Missy has written songs dedicated to Aaliyah. Some were included in her Under Construction album, which was released the following year. On the 19th anniversary of the singer's death, Missy wrote, "Your music has always been 10 steps ahead. Your sound is still futuristic. Your fashion, always been one of a kind. You rocked your outfits with swag and sauce. Just know that you are still inspiring generations till this day. We love you, Aaliyah." Missy released 6 albums between 1997 and 2005. Just last year though, she released an extended play EP that inspired an epic dance challenge for the song Cool Off. There was a huge break between releasing albums, but she continued working with other artists such as Mariah Carey, Pharrell Williams and Ciara. She's been instrumental in establishing the blueprint of hip-hop and R&B. Speaking of her songwriting style, Missy said, "Ballad or up-tempo, it's pretty much a toss-up. I can pretty much write either one. I do think I get more females asking for songs, because they can pretty much relate to the issues. They feel it's their testimony. I'm like the person who can put their feelings down on wax." Around the time of Aaliyah's death, Missy was diagnosed with high blood pressure and told that she was on the verge of having a stroke. She was told that losing weight was a matter of life or death. That's when she started working out, doing Shaun T's workout tapes, and eating better. In 2011, Missy revealed that she was also diagnosed with Graves' disease, a condition that affects the thyroid. She experienced frightening and debilitating symptoms, such as loss of muscle control, mood swings, and hair loss. While she was driving, she couldn't press down on the brake pedal because her leg went numb. And despite eating, she continued to lose weight inexplicably. "My nervous system shut down. Your skin is dry. Your hair falls out. You wake up. Your eyes feel like they've got rocks in them, she told VH1. Missy transformed herself, and fans did a double take when she came back on the scene. She lost an incredible 70 pounds. Some fans were wondering if she was bowing to the pressures of the industry. But Missy was big at the height of her success, so why would she suddenly feel the need to lose weight for superficial reasons? She took control of her health so she could live. In 2015, she performed at the Super Bowl halftime show with Katy Perry, showing off a whole new version of herself. Thank you all for the outpouring of love at the Super Bowl. And Katy Perry, I'm humbly grateful for you inviting me to join you. I cried because I've been through so much, but I'm still here, and through the grace of God and you, the fans, believing in me. I love y'all. Keep working it, girl, she tweeted. Speaking of music today, Missy said, I miss old hip-hop like hell. Before, you had one Public Enemy, one Rakim, and one Salt and Pepper. Now people have got the formula. Some of them are just doing it for the check. It's kind of watered down, and it was more positive before, with artists coming together to make records with a positive message. I don't know if that could happen today. There's so much animosity and tension and anger with each other. Speaking of her song Wake Up, featuring Jay-Z, she said, it questions the values of modern hip-hop. You're told that to be fly, you've got to have a fly car, the rims on your wheels, the fly jewels, and that to work a regular job and make legal money is uncool. But this record is saying, if you're fly, you're fly. You don't need all those accessories, she said. Bearing in mind she said this in 2003, when she was promoting her 5th studio album. So she was probably referring to the negative impact of gangster rap music, as opposed to the conscious rap of the 1980s. So she's not coming for any of today's rappers. As for settling down, in an interview with Sway, Missy shocked fans by revealing more about her personal life. I've got 2 little boys. Y'all are hearing it for the first time here. 2 sons. She was actually talking about her 2 Yorkshire Terriers. As people pick their jaws off the floor, she said she loves kids, but also loves giving them back when they start acting up.
Would you, or have you thought about ever being married?
Oh, I most definitely, But to be honest, right now I'm just living in the moment. I haven't even thought about anything but music. My label has made sure of that. I can't do nothing but try to finish this album.
What's your favourite Missy Elliot song? Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below. Like and subscribe for weekly videos. And don't forget to click the bell for more.